Kia ora guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the Life of Taison. In today's video I will be talking about my personal experience grieving a loss of a loved one. I to this day am still grieving, but my days are getting better. And so I want to share with you the journeys that I have taken to healing, the journey that I took to the time that my mother passed away, during that process, and just a very short clip. I'm taking you guys back to June the 10th, 2021, and that was a Thursday. I woke up roughly around 5:30 in the morning and I was getting ready to head down to Christchurch. I woke up, got my bags packed, and my dad was waiting for me outside, and he was getting the car ready, and I popped my bags into the back of the trunk or back of the boot, and yeah, we were just getting ready to leave the house, and I remember seeing my mum come down the stairs, and she said, "Good morning, boy, how are you this morning?" I was like, "Yeah, pretty tired, mum." And she said, "Well, I'm going to come with you to the airport." So I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, cool, mum, let's go then. We better get to the airport." So we all jumped into the car. I sat at the front. I sat at the front and my mum sat at the back, and yeah, we headed on off to the airport. I arrived at the airport, and it was quite weird because we pulled up to the departure bay, the drop-off bay, and yeah, it took me a while to get out of the car for some reason, and I didn't know what it was. I don't know if it was, am I actually going to Christchurch, or am I really even, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was up to. I don't know why I just sat in the car and waited a few minutes. Yeah, it was just a really weird morning. I had made an unexpected trip down to Christchurch. I just recently got back from Rotorua the weekend before, and yeah, I just decided, I'm off to Christchurch, so that's what I did. I booked me a ticket, one-way ticket down to Christchurch, and I wasn't really sure when I was going to come back. Anyways, I got out of the car, I grabbed my bag from out the boot, and that was the last time I saw my mum alive. I went in, checked in for my flight, and waited in the departure gate. My dad comes in, he gets a coffee for him and mum, and takes it back out to her. My mum didn't come inside the terminal. At that point, I knew that was normal for us. You know, she was unwell, and I didn't expect her to come in and say my goodbyes. Anyways, my flight got delayed, and I actually had 20 minutes behind our departure time, and that was due to fog. Anyways, my dad said, "Oh, mum needs to go to the toilet, so we're going to head home." So I said, "Sweet as, Dad, I'll see you Sunday." So I decided I'll come back on a Sunday. I arrived to Christchurch just after 8 o'clock that morning. I think it was 8 o'clock. And my best friend's mum, who I call her my mum as well, picked me up from the airport, and she took me back to her place where she stays. And Danielle was waiting there for me with baby Layla. So it was awesome to see my best friend and also baby again. Every year, I always make an attempt to go down to Christchurch. Danielle has been a long friend of mine since high school, and yeah, we went through the last final high school year together, and yeah, we grew a very strong friendship while I was over in Australia at the time. So I just wanted to keep that connection strong, and we do have our connection strong, even though we have our own lives to look after. Yeah, so I always try and make the attempt to go and see my best friend. I still call him my best friend. Anyways, we then headed off to town. I remember us going to the mall. She went to go get her nails done. I think it was her nails or her hair. I can't remember. June was quite a while ago. We went a bit of shopping, got a few things for her birthday the next day and stuff like that. So, you know, we pretty much spent our day out and about. I'm now going to take you to the 11th of June, which is Friday, and that was my best friend's birthday. So she had turned 21 that day, and we were off to Temuka to her koro's place. So we had, I think it was about an hour and a half drive from Christchurch. down to Tamuka. We woke up that morning, I got my bags packed. I actually took my whole suitcase because it was only like a small carry-on, so I was like, oh yeah, no point putting it in the bag. So yeah, just wheeled it out and we jumped in the car. We left, I think it was just about lunchtime we left, and we headed on down. It was a very gloomy day. I remember that day very, very gloomy. And yeah, and it just started to open up as soon as we got closer to Tamuka. So yeah, the drive down in the South Island is very different to the North Island, and I just loved it. Like, I just loved that whole drive from Christchurch down to Tamuka, because it was just straight road. If I had brought my best friend up to where I live in the North Island, there's windy roads, hills, stuff like that. So you know, it was just like, it was like a very cruisy day. Anyways, we arrived at her Koro's place later that afternoon. I caught up with her brother, Bice, and yeah, and we just pretty much chilled at her Koro's for a bit. Then we went to our Airbnb. My best friend was having a birthday at her Koro's place, so we went back to the Airbnb, got ready, got changed, and then we headed on down to her Koro's place later that evening. Had kai, and then had our speeches, and then we got on the piss. And yeah, it was just like a very awesome night, and I was just going to share some photos.
Get in there, babe. Get in there. Aye.
Of that night, and it's my best friend and me, when she received her 21st, and it was so awesome to be a part of that with her, because I was there for her 18th, you know, and I wanted to come for her 21st as well, so I wasn't going to miss that for the world. Then I think later that evening we went back to the Airbnb and slept. It is now the 12th of June, and that's a Saturday, and I remember waking up that morning. I felt quite yuck, like I wasn't feeling too good, like my stomach was sore. But I didn't tell my best friend about that. Sorry, Danielle, if I did tell you that. But my stomach was sore out of nowhere. And I just remember it was, when I looked at the time, it was 9 o'clock. And my stomach was just so sore. And then I was like, oh shit, maybe I need to go toilet. So I went to the toilet and, you know, did my thing. And then I felt better after that. Then went for a shower, got changed, cleaned up the beds and stuff like that. And then we headed off back to her Koro's place for breakfast. So we were at her Koro's place for about a couple hours. We had breakfast, cleaned up, just chilled for a bit, and then we hit the road again back to Christchurch. I think we left again around about lunchtime, roughly around lunchtime. We went back to Christchurch, and yeah, it was a very, very smooth drive back again. But I remember I was sitting in the back seat and I was looking out and I could see the mountains. And the sun was just glaring through the car window, and it was just bloody magnificent. Like, I was just so blown away about the scenery down in the South Island. I was just like, whoa. And then I think we were halfway on our journeys and baby started crying out of nowhere, and she couldn't stop crying. I was in the back seat, so I had to, you know, try and do baby duties and try and calm her down and stuff like that. And yeah, we ended up pulling into Ashburton, got out for a bit. I didn't get out because it was bloody cold. And then, yeah, we just chilled there for a little bit before we headed back to Christchurch. We then went back, we then arrived back in Christchurch later that evening. I was looking at my flights. So originally I booked my flights on the Friday, and then I decided to change them that Saturday night. So I was supposed to be flying directly back to New Plymouth from Christchurch. Instead, I did a connecting flight from Auckland to New Plymouth, getting back an hour and a half earlier than my direct flight back to New Plymouth. So I was like, oh yeah, I just want to get back, you know? I just wanted to get back to Taranaki. That day, that Sunday, I had plans. We had our local club rugby league. We were hosting Coastal. And then we had the Taranaki Sharks trials, and then yeah, I had a meeting that day too, so I was pretty full on that Sunday. And yeah, so we just pretty much chilled the rest of that night, Saturday night, and yeah, I went to bed quite early, and then I woke up Sunday the 13th of June at around about 5:30 a.m, packed my bags again, cleaned up the room and got my shit, and then woke up. my best friend's brother, and he took me back to the airport. That morning I did a few posts. So I was posting for our local club. We had our home game against Coastal, and our Taranaki Sharks rugby league trials that day as well. I also had a meeting that I was supposed to go to that day as well. So I was quite full on when I returned back to Taranaki. So that's why I had changed my flights for an earlier arrival. That morning, on my way to the airport, my niece messaged the group chat, and she was telling me that there were ambulances at the house, and there wasn't one, there was a couple. And for me that was normal. I kind of knew what to expect. Mum's going to hospital, and I knew who it was for too. I just told them to keep me updated, and then my sister messages our siblings group chat just to inform us about Mum and what has happened. And I was just about to board my flight through to Auckland. I remember arriving at the airport, and the seats at the departure gate were full, and I just sat on the ground, and I was just messaging my family, you know, just casually. And then just casually got scrolling through Facebook like it was normal that Mum was going into hospital. Yes, I did have that doubt. That morning though, I just carried on, you know, I wasn't panicking, I wasn't worried. I just knew that was a normality, that was normal for me, you know, to just feel, okay, yeah, Mum's going into hospital. But little did I know what the extent was, because I had little to none information on what was actually going on until I had actually arrived back in Taranaki. So we boarded my flight. It was about 8 o'clock. I was boarding my plane through to Auckland, and I remember sitting in a window seat, and the sun just started glaring out of nowhere. It was cloudy, and then the sun just pops through the window, and I just happened to look out, and there was just this hole, like this gap in the sky, and it was just shining, the sun was just shining through. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Oblivious of the signs. Kia ora te whānau, I've just put in some unedited footage here explaining the last moment. It just glared through, and then before you know it, we're on the runway with taking off into the sky. I think halfway through that flight, I ended up getting sore ears. Now, I don't get sore ears on any flights. It's only when you're coming into land, but during the flight, my ears started aching, both ears. And then I happened to look out the window, and we were flying directly north. Sorry guys. And I just seen all this black cloud just circling around us, like they're circling the plane. And I was just like, whoa, that was trippy. I tried to take a photo, but my ears were just too sore to do anything. So I was just like this to both of my ears the whole flight, and no one was sitting next to me. It's 9:15, we touched down into Auckland, and we were actually ahead of schedule. So I actually had a 30-minute or 25-minute turnaround from my connecting flight. So I actually had 25 minutes to get down to the next gate to board my flight back down to New Plymouth. So it was a tight turnaround. I exit the aircraft, and it just hit me then that it was my mum's birthday. And I just felt like, oh my God, so I ended up shooting straight downstairs, exited the gate, and then I just bolted straight to my next flight. I'm just gonna get some donuts. So I ran over, I got the box full of donuts, just popped it in my bag. I then went to go sit down, and then I rang my dad. I just wanted an update to see where Mum was, because I knew they were at the hospital at that time. And I rang my dad, and he picks up. All right, I'll see you when you get here. Hung up. And then I just popped into my siblings group chat, and I just said to them, I spoke to Dad, it's touch and go with Mum. And when I say touch and go, that means it's touch and go, like she is going downhill. And that's when I started to realise shit was getting real. I boarded my plane in Auckland to New Plymouth. Very fast flight, I must say. It was a very quick flight from New Plymouth to Auckland. We were supposed to land from Waitara Ways. If you know where Waitara is, we were supposed to land through Waitara, but instead we looped out to sea, then come back and came through New Plymouth way. And I remember looking out the window, and we were passing Bell Block, and I just seen these kids, and I just remembered, oh my god, yeah, we've got a home game. So Bell Block was actually hosting Howard the Hawks that morning, and I could see Bell Block, I could see Howard the Hawks, the colours, you know, they were just right there, and I was like, oh, that's pretty neat, you know, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So I took a photo, and we landed. I remember once we landed and we parked up at the gate, I was sitting inside the aircraft quite a while because the door was taking forever to open. So I just sat there and I was just looking out the window, and I just felt this gush of wind, like literally, I'm not even making this up, like this gust of wind just flew past my face, and I was like looking around, I was like, what the hell? And I know the air cons were on, but it was like a big gust of wind that just flew straight past me, and I was just like buzzing out. So I didn't take any notice of it. At that time I hadn't turned my phone on to see what was up, the latest updates and stuff like that. And yeah, there was this old lady that was just sitting next to me. She was just waiting to go and exit the aircraft as well. And I just like, all right, this is taking forever. So I pretty much dive into my pocket and I like, turn my phone on. And then get a message from my sister that she's arrived. So I was like, sweet. So I messaged back, okay, I just landed, blah, 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 I'll be out soon. So I sent that message, and then I pop into my messenger. I open the message, and my oldest brother had confirmed to my siblings and I that mum had passed away. Yeah, my heart just sunk. To the point I started tearing up. Luckily I had glasses, so I popped my glasses on and I just tried to keep myself together because I didn't want to cause a scene or attract any attention from the cabin crew or those passengers around me. I had to get out of the aircraft, and I was messaging my sister and I was like, can you come get me? And I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, like she can actually come out of the terminal onto the tarmac to come get me out of the aircraft, like that could happen. And then all I remember is I just grabbed my bag from the overhead bins and I just grabbed it, like I just literally grabbed it and just shoved it to the ground, and I just ran because I was the last person out of the aircraft. I just ran out the aircraft and then down the ramp, and then I was just power walking all the way inside the terminal, bawling my eyes out to the point I nearly dropped my bag and I was going to walk away without it. I turned around, grabbed my bag, and I just boosted it inside, and my sister was standing there waiting, glasses on and all, and yeah, I knew right there, that was my confirmation that it was actually true. So I just ran and I just gave my sister a big hug, hugged her so tight, and I said to her, WTF sis, are you kidding me? And she's like, no. So me and my sister, we just bolted out of the airport, jumped in the car. My nieces and nephews were in there, they were crying and I was crying, and what I needed to do on my behalf was contact the people that I needed them to know what was going on. So the first people that I contacted first were my mates, Joe and Clarissa. They were the first people because I had just come off campaign with them. And yeah, they were pretty much my tight-knitted whānau during that campaign, and they were the first people I told. They were literally the first people I had told. As soon as I got in the car, I messaged them both and I told them that my mum passed away. The next person I messaged was my best friend. I told her, I've landed safely. Unfortunately, my mum has passed away on arrival. So she was my second person that I told. Just before the hospital, I messaged my very close uncle that I got into knowing through rugby league, my Uncle Shane. I messaged him and I told him that mum's passed away. So those are the four people that I've made contact with first. And then I made contact with my closest cousin, Taku, and I told her what was going on. I knew she would be there for me, so I said, I'll let you know when to come down. And we pull up to the hospital. My mum was in the emergency department in her own room, and my brother and dad were waiting outside. They were having a smoke, and gave my brother a massive hug, and then my dad. And all I wanted to do was go and see my mum, but I had to wait for my dad. I was scared to go in. I was literally scared to go into the hospital. Then made our way through. We then made our way through into the hospital, through the emergency, opened the doors, and yeah, everything just hit me one after another. My brother was outside the door. He was on the phone, and I gave him a massive hug. And my other brother was inside my mum, and you know, it's the hardest thing to see your loved one on a bed, restless, and just lying there so peacefully. You know, at that point, you're going through this whole, like, you feel all this heaviness come upon you. And for me, I struggled real hard seeing my mum just laying there. I had to actually sit down and just process the whole situation. What I am grateful for, though, is that Mum actually prepared us for this time. We knew what was going on with her. We knew her condition that she was in, and she had called a meeting a year ago, telling us that she may not make it. So we were prepared. In my regard, I felt I was ready. I felt prepared to let go of my mum. If it was so sudden and unexpected, we didn't know and we weren't told as a family, you know, from her, that, you know, her dying days, it would have been the hardest time of our life. So in a sense, I personally knew what to do then. I had to remain strong. I had to get my mum through this process. That's what I had to do. My Auntie Faye turned up moments later, and I just knew then she was going to take control of everything. And I knew for a fact because that's what my mum would have done. She would have done the same if it was her brother, if it was her sister. She did that for her dad. So my auntie knew what my mum does for the whānau. And now that my mum has gone, my auntie has taken over, and the awhina, and, you know, just being there for our whānau. So my Auntie Faye, you know, she has gone through a lot with my mum. And, you know, to see her sister lie there, you know, it would have been the hardest moment for her. I had to mentally prepare myself for the next couple of days. That's what I had to do, and get through those next couple of days. My cousin turned up, my cousins turned up, and especially to my favourite cousin, my closest cousin, known her all my life. It was just great to have her there with me. I think we were at the hospital for about 2 hours. My mum wanted to go to Abraham's, but we couldn't give her that wish. However, we could give her her other wish that she asked for the night before she died, and that was to get buried in Awanui. That was her dying wish, the night before she had passed away, is that she wanted to get buried in Awanui. So we gave her that. Yes, I decided I was hungry. I needed to get something into me. I needed to get to refuel again, because I hadn't had breakfast when I left Christchurch. I just got on the plane and just left, and so I was like, cousins, can you take me out to breakfast? So I went for breakfast. I know, right? Your mum just passed away and you're like, oh, I want to go for breakfast. Is that normal? I don't think so. But anyways, we went to New Plymouth while my mum was going to the funeral directors. My Uncle Shane messages me, my sister gets hold of me, like, what's the go, blah, blah, blah. And then they were telling us that mum was getting taken to the funeral home now. So they were all leaving there now. And I was just finishing up breakfast. So my cousins drove me to the funeral place, and hung out there for a couple of hours. Our mum was getting embalmed and stuff like that. And yeah, before you know it, my mum was done, and they just wheeled her out, and my sister and my aunties and my cousins went to go and dress my mum. And yeah, I couldn't be there. I just cried, I just cried with all emotions, and yeah, it was hard. Got my mum into the casket, and we took her home. We arrived home later that evening. We took my mum upstairs, and it was so warm up there. All her mokos arrived, my auntie and uncles. Yeah, all the whānau started arriving at the house. yeah, it was just full on from then. Yeah, those days, messages went out. We told them when my mum was home. Whānau just started coming one after the other. Whānau from Australia flew home, and I think we were very fortunate for them to be able to come home during that time. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard being around my whānau under the circumstances that it were. And, fast tracking to the funeral day. The 16th. Sorry, it was the 16th, and we're getting ready to bury my mum. The day went quick. My other best friend from Palmerston North, she come up also for the funeral. My workmates also come. A lot of the whānau came in attendance to the funeral, and we were just so grateful for the massive aroha and the respect that we got given from them. Yeah, truly amazing from our whānau. Yeah, it was hard seeing your mum be buried into the ground. Yeah, the funeral took place and I jumped in the car, in the hearse with my mum, and I drove with her one last time to her resting place. For me, that was a moment with my mum. I felt like that was my way of taking my mum back to her whānau, back to where she will be resting for the rest of her life. On the day that I was born, and I was giving my mum back to the earth, on the day she got buried into her final resting place. So I sat in the car with the driver, and we were driving to New Plymouth, and I was just looking straight ahead, and in my head I was just talking to my mum, telling her that I love her, that I don't miss her, that I'm always thinking of her, that I'll always be thinking of her. And I was just having my own conversation, my personal conversation, my moment with my mum. And I was just saying all the things that I wanted to say to my mum, that I couldn't on earth, that I had a regret. A regret was back to that morning that I left for Christchurch. I didn't tell my mum that I loved her. I didn't say goodbye to her that morning. I didn't talk to her once. And that regret, spammed those whole days, those funeral days, the times we had with our mum, when my mum was at home, and even the days after. I had that huge regret that I didn't say all those things that I wanted to say to my mum that morning. And that's when I spoke to my mum, and I said, I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry that I didn't say I love you, and I'm sorry that I didn't say goodbye to you, and I'm sorry that we didn't talk that morning. I say that, you have to carry on with life. You can't dwell in the past. You can't sit there and feel sorry for yourself every single day. You have to be strong. You have to be strong. And you have to find motivation to keep pushing through your life. And through my grieving process that I've gone through, is that keeping busy is what keeps my mind off my mum. And I feel much better come 4 months, and I was expecting a whole year for me to recover from a grievance, but I've come 4 months in, and I'm feeling semi-okay now. Like I feel like I've gone through that process, like that grieving process. I feel like I've gone through that now, but that grieving part will still be there at some times. You'll have your days. I know I've had my days, but other days are better. I do apologise for not posting this video up earlier. Let's just say I wasn't ready, and that's okay. But I had to get some content out, and I had to overcome this. So this is what I've done for you guys. I hope you fellas enjoyed it. An experience that I wanted to share with you guys. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Next week you'll be heading into our Vlogtober vlogs. Yeah, you'll see my new house, whānau. This is where I'm currently recording at the moment. So yeah, until next time, whānau, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I just want to quickly say this real quickly. Always tell whoever you talk to that you love them.